Okay. You've clicked on this video. Yeah, you have clicked on this video. But I figured since it's Halloween season, why not read a bunch of horror stories to you guys that I found on the internet? And while you guys watch this match of Fortnite, because I know you guys probably aren't going to have an attention span just to listen to me speaking, so you can watch this gameplay. I don't know if this is a good match or not. I don't know if we win. I don't know what happens. I just hope it's not horrible in my shots. Don't pay attention to the gameplay. Anyways, the first story is called It Wasn't a Little Girl. I was camping with my husband and his family at a small remote lake in New Mexico. There were about 10 people in our group and another group of 6 people at the next campsite. It was nighttime and both groups were doing typical activities, making s'mores, having a few drinks, telling stories, when we all heard what sounded like a little girl yelling out for help. Neither group had children with them, but we were all positive we were hearing a little girl and decided to search the area we heard the noise from. Together! Smart idea. There was a field behind our campsite, and we all saw very tall, pure white figures standing maybe 100 feet away from us in the field. That is 100% Slender Man. No! Making the noises, we all agreed that this thing maybe looked 6 feet tall and as wide as can be. We made our way closer to investigate, but whatever it was started backing off as soon as we got closer. It disappeared into the trees. All night we continued to hear a little girl calling for help as we tried to sleep. That is Slender Man, and I'm gonna need Slender Man to 100% leave me alone. This is bullying. I just filmed a freaking Slender Man video. He needs to go away. Please go away. Okay, so the next story is called, let me see. It Came for Us in the Graveyard. We were driving my friend's really old beat-up car through a massive graveyard. We stopped and walked down a hill and came across a little pond. There was someone sitting on a rock, and on the other side of the pond, the figure was all black, and we couldn't make out any figures other than the fact that it looked like a man who was wearing some old-style top hat. We stupidly waved and shouted hi. He didn't show any acknowledgement and continued sitting on the rock. All of a sudden, he jumped to his feet, starting running to us on the water. On the water? Man was walking on the water, and then he vanished in the thin water about halfway on the pond. My friends and I screamed and ran back to our car. The car wouldn't start, and we heard something banging on the back of the car. It wasn't a constant bang. That's an ad, right? It wasn't a constant bang, but every few seconds or so we heard it. Nobody was outside from where we could see in the dark, but something had been making a noise on the car. I opened my phone and started dialing my mom to give us a boost, but I had no service. None of us had any cell service. The next 30 minutes were spent trying to get her car started. No banging was heard afterwards, but we all felt this heavy pressure around us. Finally, the car started, and she hit the pedal to the metal. The pedal to the metal, the pedal to the metal. Hey. We sped out of the graveyard so fast, immediately crossing the grate. All of our phones were getting cell service. One thing I know for certain is that someone or something was out there, and it was not an animal or not a human. Wow. That's actually, I would read that if that was a book. I hope none of this is true stories, because I just can't do that. Okay. This one's a short one. It's called Hell Hath No Fury Like a Woman Scorned. Okay, it's a weird name. After we moved into our home, we were told a woman had died there at the hands of her abusive husband. She hated men. My dad would wake up with scratches all over himself. And whenever my brother was mean to my sister or I, he would have scratches on him as well. One day my brother hurt his sister. He hit her with something. When he woke up later that night, he had a horrible bloody nose. The day we moved out, my brother accidentally broke his twin's arm trying out a wrestling move. He swears that he would have died that night if it wasn't our last in the house. Whoa. Whoa. Okay, death came for him. I was standing in my parents' room talking to my very sick dad at the time. He was dying of stage 4 cancer. I got the feeling something was behind me. I looked towards the doorway to the living room and saw something about 4'6" and fully black speaking around the corner, with his hands on the door frame. I ran towards it. It slipped back around the door. When I got outside the doorway, there was nothing. My dad was completely confused when I stepped back inside the room and I tell him. People who stayed at my house in my dad's final days claimed to have seen it. My mom saw the figure on multiple occasions in multiple places until he passed away. We haven't seen it since. That's scary. It's definitely like a version of the Grim Reaper, right? That's what I think. Okay. My mother attracted evil. After my parents' divorce when I was a teenager, I lived with my mother. I experienced lots of paranormal happenings. Several times when I was reading my bed, the room would start to feel really icy. Next, it would feel as something or somebody that hated me was staring at me. When I got that feeling, I would leave the room and come back an hour later. Sometimes during the day, I would see a shadow figure sneaking along my bedroom walls. Man, that's lovely. Something in the flat was pretending to be my dog. I went into my room and heard a deep growl from under my bed. My dog wasn't capable of making that deep of noise. It sounded like either a really big dog or a man doing his best dog impersonation. Other times my dog would have whimpered and paced in the next room, but wouldn't when called, as if he was afraid of something in the hallway. When I moved in with my father, the paranormal activity stopped. That is scary, and I don't want to have anything to do with that. Evicted by a ghost. Shortly after college, I got married. We immediately moved into a basement apartment. That was your first mistake, moving into a basement apartment? Are you stupid? Anyways, because that was always available, and then I read. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. You're not stupid. This place had a poltergeist, and my wife was terrified. Whatever resided here made it clear it wanted to live alone. Dishes, glasses, and other items would fly off the shelf. My wife was hit several times. There was always an ominous feeling like we were being watched. At night, when we walked through the apartment in the dark, there would be insanely bright flashes of light that would illuminate the entire room. One night, while we were going to bed, as soon as my wife and I walked into the bedroom, we heard the voice from nowhere say, "My name, Move." My wife looked at me. I looked at her and I said loudly, "You've got it, bud." He said, "No problem, man. You want my wife? Take her." We moved out 2 days later and stayed with family. The old lady who owned the place died a few months later, and the house was torn down. It is still an empty lot to this day, nothing but grass and a tree. I still drive by it every now and again. Why would you drive by it every now and again? That's just like stupid. Okay, the demon's room. I worked as a nurse in a hospital's lockup unit. Oof. We had an older lady who swore she was being haunted and abused by a demon she would call Tiberius. So many crazy things happened while she was on the unit. We'd go into her room, do normal care, leave, and a second later she started screaming bloody murder. We run into the room to find her looking like she had been in a fight with a boxing champ. Bloody lip, black eye, markings all over her body.
We made our driest burn ever to test new vintage.
Markings all over her body. No one ever saw her doing this stuff to herself. Things would get moved around the room by themselves. At one point, she was in a protective restraints because the doctor thought she was hurting herself. There was no way she could have moved or done anything to herself while in these restraints, but the new marks would always appear, or her cart would be across the room. The room was secure, so there was no way someone else was doing it. When we asked her questions, she said it was Tiberius. After she was discharged, we always had trouble with that room. If there was going in to be a rapid responsible or code, it happened in that room. One night, a guard reported lights blinking off, on and off. It was in that room. Wow. I honestly don't. That's scary. Those stories are, like, pretty scary. I want to see, like, oh, God. I'm getting chills when I think about it. Also, I got an ad a couple times, so I really hope that's not going to get me copyrighted because of ads. Okay, so this one is called A Mother's Love. Some people actively go out looking for ghost encounters, and every once in a while they find one. When Kevin was a teenager, he and his friends had heard about a dangerous turn on the nearby highway that caused many accidents over the years. It was now haunted. The most well-known story was of a mother who took her own life after her son had crashed his car and died there. It was said around town that her ghost remained at the deadly turn to protect people from ending up like her deceased child. Kevin and his friends decided to put that theory to a test. At night, Kevin drove his friends out to the highway. When the group of boys arrived at the turn, they pulled over. They brought a bag of flour with them and proceeded to sprinkle the white powder on the road, the grass, and the car. The idea was to get footprints to prove that the ghost was indeed real. The boys hopped back in and began to take the car around the turn. Kevin accelerated faster and faster, and thump. The car came to a abrupt halt, as if someone had slammed down on it with their own two hands. They immediately got out of the car and saw 2 woman-sized handprints on the car. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Okay, so the ghost in the hall. 4 young women moved into a new old England apartment together. A month later, after they moved in, one of the roommates realized that her favorite stuffed teddy bear was missing. The others all said they hadn't touched it or seen it. Weeks went by, and she almost forgot about her teddy when something strange happened. She opened the door to one of the closets that hardly ever used, and there on top of the shelf was her furry friend. All the roommates swore that they had no idea how it happened. Now, whenever the teddy bear goes missing for a few days, she knows exactly where to find it. Their apartment probably had all of these together. Signs of being haunted, too. A voice in the desert. 2 young men in their 20s, Josh and Dan, went on a camping trip together in a desert in New Mexico. They didn't take much with them besides sleeping bags, food, and materials for a fire. After they cooked their dinner, they fell asleep as they gazed up into a starry night. The beauty and peace of the stripe were short-lived. However, in the early hours of the morning, Josh was startled awake by what sounded like Dan's voice, but frantic. The voice said, "Come here, quick, look." Sleepy and confused, Josh got up to see what his friend was talking about. He heard again, "Come here, quick, look." It sounded unnatural, a perfect repetition. Josh took a few steps forward, and then someone grabbed him from behind. He turned around to see Dan with his fingers in front of his mouth, warning Josh to keep quiet. They rolled up their sleeping bags and left. They still don't know who or what was trying to lure Josh away into the desert. Bro, what? That's scary. That's like a skinwalker or something, because, like, skinwalkers can, like, take a form of another, like, something else, or, like, someone's voice, right? I don't know. Echoes of the past. A young bachelor at the beginning of his career became very successful very quickly, so he bought himself a house. One morning he woke to the sound of running water. He rushed to the bathroom and saw the bathtub faucet was running on full blast. He was perturbed by this, as he lived alone. A week later it happened again, only this time it wasn't just one faucet, it was all the faucets in the house. The young man called a repairman to fix the pipes and the water damage, but as it turned out, the pipes weren't broken. The repairman, a local, seemed visibly shaken. "What's wrong?" the bachelor asked. "The woman who lived here before you," said the repairman. "She drowned in that bathtub." The ghosts of drowned victims linger in the haunted bodies of water. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed me telling you those stories. I know it took a lot of breath to do so. Well, yeah. And if I said words wrong, don't hate on me. Okay? Be nice. Some of those stories were actually really scary, and I enjoyed reading them. It got me a little. Some of them gave me goosebumps. Some of them didn't really. Some of them were kind of not scary at all. Oh! I did win that match. We won that match. Oh, frick, let's go. I actually had no clue that we won this match. Okay, anyways, like, subscribe, and have a lovely day. Toodles, guys. Yep, it's time. Fun fact of the day. Did you know that A Nightmare on Elm Street is based on a real story? Yeah, I didn't either, and I 100% could have gone my whole life without knowing this fact. So that's why I put this in this video, so I don't have to suffer alone. Love you guys, though. And I decided to do it at the end of the fun fact at the end of the video because I don't want to interrupt the stories.